find out.
Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
They haven't got it!
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still start trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it! Big Barry!
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Virtual World Sportscar Championship for 2023. This is the 60 minutes of Indianapolis, the final of the 60-minute races we have over the course of this season, with just 2 rounds to go after this one. Everything is getting oh so important and oh so more exciting as well in this championship. Hello, welcome one and all. I'm Ewan O'Leary. Alongside me is Stephen Carabellis, and we are going to bring you the 60 minutes here at Indianapolis this evening in what has been a great season so far. It will continue on, and we will have a final hour-long race here this evening. This is the circuit we'll be using, of course, and Stephen, it is the one that divides opinion. I know you've never driven it before, but I have, and I didn't enjoy it very much. But we're hoping that it doesn't really matter to us whether we enjoy it or not. We hope that it produces good racing, and that's what we're going to, well, find out really over the course of the next hour or two.
Yeah, fingers crossed we get some entertaining battles for our viewing pleasure. It should be hopefully interesting in terms of championship, if not anything else. There's still a lot to play for in the championship, like you say, and not long left to go before its curtains are drawn as well. So everybody's vying for those points. Few remaining points that are available, and it should be entertaining to see them really battle hard for those today here in Indianapolis.
Yes, let's have a look at the schedule before we do that. 2 more rounds to go, as you can see after this one. The longest remaining race is the 100 minutes of Road Atlanta, which comes up in 4 weeks' time. We've got quite a bit of a break. And then we have Bahrain, the final round of the season. That will be a few weeks after Road Atlanta, so not long to go now. At all, but we're very much in that point of the season where it's at 60-minute races all the time, and this is the last of those here at Indianapolis. Let's quickly go through those tyre compounds they've got today. Now, there is a bit of interest here we've been hearing. I'll talk to, of course, Ross Smith about this a little bit later on, because he will be joining us when we're in warm-up, but the Hypercars have the soft and the medium available. The GCs have soft, mediums and hards available. The wet tyres probably won't be used today. In fact, the exact opposite. It's very warm out there today indeed, and everyone worried a little bit about tyre wear and those falling away from them a little bit over the course of today's race. And there's a bit of a toss-up between Hypercar and whether you go for softs and mediums. Among that, there's tyre management. As you can see, one of the challenges already kind of covered it, really. Do you go for soft tyres or the mediums? Because it will be a one-stop race. And you will, or maybe a 2-stop and whatever. You've got to figure out how to get to the end of the race. You've got to figure out how to keep your tyres in check. Maybe your setup can help with that. That will be very important over a circuit like this that really does demand good setups. If you're not comfortable around here, then you're not going to be enjoying yourself, no matter how much you enjoy Indianapolis as a prospect on its own. And strategic passing as well is something you're going to have to worry about. Traffic is going to be a problem here, Stephen, as it is in all of the circuits. So we we will have to wonder about that and see where these hypercars can actually get through on the slower GT3s. Let's take a look at the championship standings though as well, because you see Missouri is leading here in GT3 AM. He's not actually that far away from being able to secure the title entirely. He's got, 62 points on the rest of the field there. Steve Miller and Peter Meyer are the two closest, and probably two who can actually take it away from him at this point. Stuart Barge is in fourth, and Matt Buse and Mike Buse, who are 5th and 6th, and they are leading the teams championships, you can see on the right hand side. In GT3 itself, we've got Becky Ely, new championship leader now, just 9 points ahead of Jamie Zalecki after her 3rd win of the season last time out. Brandon Gant slipped to 3rd, and JC Tammy and Vasilis Katarodakis. All those 5 are still very much in contention, still with a great chance of taking the title. Then we've got Johnny Gutierrez, who's a little bit further back. Vinicius Gonçalves is 7th, ahead of John Mayer, Sassin Sobers and Luciano Ichazo, who rounds out the top 10 of LMGT3. In the Hypercar AM standings, we've got Wayne Hutchison, who extended his lead at Fuji last time out to 34 points with his 5th win of the season. Philippe Henrique is in 2nd, of Guillaume Benck, and then Barry DeMarzo, who can't win the title anymore. Neither can William Miller, who rounds out the top 5. But he is part of Stuart House Racing, the current leading team in the Teams Championship, although that is a very close fight with Team HBD Acura, only 7 points between those two. And then the Hypercar standings, Daniel Kirby leads here after 6 wins so far this season. He is almost a foregone conclusion for winning this one now, with 68 points over the others. Tom Lane is 2nd, ahead of Kirby's teammate John Uyen. Then we've got Timon Subic in 4th, ahead of Magnus Dahlgren. Mia Rose slipped to 5th after a good start, 6th, after a good start to the season. Vulture de Bruyne is in 7th, ahead of Ross Smith, who we'll chat to later, I'm sure. Bradley Sayers and Brian Hall round out the top 10, with CMS Pro already confirmed champions in the Teams Championship. So as you mentioned, Steve, it's still plenty to fight for, but just want to go back to traffic management a little bit. One of the challenges that we've got on our screens for this one, and it's not a very wide circuit, not a circuit that's used very often either, so I wouldn't imagine that a lot of these drivers have got very much experience around here.
Yeah, it tends not to be a fan favourite, like we've said before, but it is going to present its own challenges, traffic being that big one. Like you say, it's such a congested track that the Hypercars are going to find it difficult to navigate the GT3 traffic, and we're almost certain to see a punt or a collision or two. The Porsche is one of the favourites around here for the Hypercars, though, but their tyres do go off hard. It's the all-wheel drive cars here that are going to be the quickest, but with the temperature out there as it is today, they might struggle with that tyre wear, because it is going to burn their tyres up quite quick. Yeah,
it is. We'll ask Ross Smith about that a little bit later. Qualifying will begin very shortly then. The GT3 classes will be out there together first of all, and then it will be up to the Hypercars, who will be out there together as well. Qualifying split rather sensibly, really, because we wouldn't want everybody out there together on the circuit. It would be a bit of a mess, really. So we don't particularly want that. In terms of the points that are remaining, we've got 25 for this race and 38 for the other two. That gives us what, 101 points still available here this season. In Hypercar, that leaves us with 3 championship contenders. In Hypercar AM, we're left with 3 as well. LMGT actually has realistically 14, but that's probably not an actual representation of what we're going to see over the course of the last 3 rounds. And in LMGT3 AM, we've got 3 as well. So for the most part, they're 3 contenders, but some of them are a lot closer than others. Once again, our focus is going to turn to GT3 because it's been such a great title fight. Twists and turns, ups and downs for everybody all throughout. And finally, we're getting towards the end of the season, but we still don't really know who's going to come out on top and take the title.
Yeah, certainly a tough one to call, but my money for certain is on Becky Ely, who's won 3 out of 3 of the last 3 races. So absolutely fantastic form. She came 2nd in the one before that, so not really a stranger to the podium by any stretch, but she's certainly got tough competition lying in wait right behind her. Not a lot of points separating her from the rest.
Nice livery on the Acura as well, by the way. A bit of a Braun GP tribute. Well, I don't know if it actually is, but it looks like one. So we'll take it. But But yes, there you go. In the Acura or the Honda, depending on where you're from. The GT3s will be out there first, of course. They've only got 10 minutes, and then the Hypercars will be out there. Normally, I would say at this point that 10 minutes is not that long, and it's a fairly small amount of time to find your free track space, find your speed, and get a good lap in. But realistically, it's not actually that short of a time around here, because it's not the longest circuit that we go to by any means. Well, of course, Le Mans is by quite some distance, but in terms of the regular circuits even, this is not one of the longest that we have on the schedule. You can actually get quite a few laps in that period of just 10 minutes.
Yep, and as you say, the tricky part is just finding that gap on the track to get that lap in, and you've got to kind of plan ahead for that, really. Make sure that you're aware of what's going on all around the track, so you can slot yourself into a nice little gap there. But it's very easy to get that wrong on such a short track as well. Cause somebody to be out of place in qualifying and having to make up positions in the race, which always leads to entertainment.
That certainly does. So, out onto the opening lap of the session goes Becky, looking to set the benchmark for everybody here. And we'll see what that benchmark is going to be in this in the opening of this session. So over the curbs she goes now. It's a very high speed section of the course. You do almost straight line it, really, just bounce over the curves, especially in the GT3s. You can get away with it. Then in towards the slightly more intricate and technical final sector, or next chicane, I should say. It's not quite the final sector yet. Turn 7 is a great overtaking opportunity, 90-degree left-hander pretty much. Then there's a bit of more of a flowing section through to the right and then the left, and then an important corner to the right at turn 10 there, which gives you that run down towards through 11, which is really this corner here. Don't really think about it. Then the braking zone at 12. There are a number of big braking zones around here, and you'd think that would encourage overtaking, but it doesn't always pan out like that around here. We'll have to see whether that changes tonight as Becky Healy makes her way around the final corner now. Exceptionally difficult in a car that doesn't have traction control to actually keep the power on around here and control the sliding. And even when you do have traction control, it's not easy. Becky Healy goes over the line now then, and it's a 23.5 that will be the benchmark for the rest. And I guess the benefit that she's got is the fact that she's got out first. She's got the free track space. She's not worrying about traffic like everybody else might be further back in this qualifying session.
Certainly a possibility for sure, but yeah, it's going to be very tricky to get past on this circuit, especially for those hypercars. The braking performance of difference between the classes not that pronounced. Where the hypercar really shines is on its traction, its grip out of the corners. So people are going to have to be aware of that, and aware that you're not really going to have much of a chance to outbrake these GT3s with the braking performance being so similar.
Yeah. It's the GT3s can actually go very deep on the brakes as well, in terms of their zone, because of the ABS that they are able to make use of. Very helpful in terms of braking late, and slow speed is not ideal for the hypercars at all. Purple in the middle sector here for Becky Healy, and she's not been knocked off her perch for the moment. She's still got the fastest time of all. So around the final corner she goes now. We'll need to find another half a tenth, maybe a tenth in that final sector to improve, and it's not quite an improvement. It's another purple final sector actually, but it's still not an improvement. Now we'll go back to the pit lane. Just a demonstration of how short this circuit is. You can actually get 2 flying laps in, then go back to the pit lane, then another 2 flying laps. That is how much time you've got, how many laps you've got on your hands here at Indianapolis due to the length of this circuit.
Yeah, fortunately for Becky there, just unable to beat that original time though. Big mistake in the first sector somewhere, but those 2 purple sectors show that the pace is there to definitely improve on that time. At the moment, she's sitting pretty with the fastest time on the board by over a second and a half nearly, and it's at the moment her to beat.
Yep. A good evening to Phil across the pond, who's joined us again here this evening. But yeah, Becky Healy very much setting the pace. 1.4 seconds is the gap. Jamie Zalecki is the nearest pro and is 2 seconds back now. Kateranakis jumps into second place, actually just ahead of Zalecki. There is Vasilis Kateranakis, who's still involved in the championship fight, of course, albeit only really mathematically. 13 drivers have set times so far, and it's remarkable, really. Ili's time is a lot better than the rest, but then the rest of the field is really close together, other than Takanashi, who's just ruined that slightly. From third place, 1.5 seconds down, to Gray in 13th. 1 second separate those guys from top to bottom. That's 11 cars separated by a second, which is pretty impressive, really, in terms of how close things are.
Yeah, tight competition here in the VWSC here, and it's going to give us hopefully an entertaining race where we will see even the slightest, tiniest little mistakes could lose a position or two, allow us to see lots of overtakes hopefully as well. But of course we've still got a lot of the hypercars to go out in the second half of this qualifying. They're obviously going to smash some of these times, well, all of these times to be fair. But it's interesting to see some of the AM drivers really mixing it in with the pros as well. Always entertaining to see people start a little higher than we maybe expect them to.
Yeah, they'll be out in a few minutes' time. Kateranakis makes his way over the line now. What's the time going to be for him? It seems slower. Oh, it certainly was. He backed off on that one. Did Kateranakis. Zalecki gets up to second, and now is just within half a second of Becky Ely. Maybe it's not going to be a runaway for her on this occasion. I think last time out, really, there wasn't too much of a challenge. Don't want to take anything away from the win of Becky Ely, of course, but she was relatively unchallenged throughout the 60 minutes of Fuji. But at Indianapolis, it may well be a different prospect. Vinicius Gonçalves is in 4th for the pros at the moment, but 7th overall. It is interesting that the pros and non-pros are mixing so much at the moment. Normally, you'd expect to see those pros, of course, obviously not miles in front because they are using the same machinery, but you would expect them to see, or to see them inside what the top 5 is at the moment. 5 have set times currently. Sasha Sobers might be able to join them, but that's not what's happening right now. The AMs are mixing it with them, and it shows that the likes of Eugene Mazur and Matt Buse and Mike Buse and all the others, they're very strong drivers as well, and they can mix it with the pros as well over the course of qualifying, especially. Maybe in the races where it falls apart slightly, but in qualifying, the pros and non-pros are really quite close together in terms of speed.
Yep, and common factor that's going to happen around here in Indianapolis as well is just managing that race as well, getting the strategy right, coming in at the right times and getting out into the right spaces as well for the stops is going to be all important. And those AM drivers can take advantage of some of that, and if they keep their noses clean, could end up beating quite a few or end up quite high on the overall GT3 board themselves. And that's what they've got to kind of look for, really, is just trying to keep that patient consistency in order to keep your nose out of trouble, and good things come to those who wait in the end.
That's what they'll be hoping anyway. A minute to go. Becky Ely goes a bit quicker as well. 23.2 for her. Jamie Zalecki currently on your screen, and is just over 1/10 of a second down on that time for the moment. You can see the target time there as well, 23.2. That's the time, of course, of Becky Ely, who is currently leading this session. So Zalecki needs to pull something out the back here. Ely is leading this championship now. 9 points is the gap between the two of them, and the difference in points, by the way, between finishing first and finishing second in a race is 7 points. So Zalecki could very much slash most of Ely's lead, even if she finishes second here with a win. But of course, that is easier said than done. It's going to be a hard-fought race between those two, and others maybe.
Yeah, we've got David Junt there in chat as well, saying that the GT3 have both TC and ABS, if I remember correctly, and the GTs have none. He's also saying that the NXS sounds so quiet. Yeah, it isn't not something we can hear, unfortunately, in the broadcast booth. But yeah, the sounds and of the cars all differ, of course, and looking forward to hearing them in full roar for the first lap of this race. But at the moment, like you say, Becky Ely dominating proceedings in the qualifying for the GT3s, still beating Zalecki by over 3.5 tenths, and doesn't look like anybody can catch her at the moment. Is she going to be out of sight here, I wonder?
I think so. Zalecki did improve on that lap, but it wasn't enough. 3.5 tenths now the gap between the two. 23.6 now his best lap time. But yeah, it's the strange sound that the NSX makes, really, isn't it? It's a sort of very low, understated, deep sort of sound, really. I was going to say it's a sort of grunt, but it's not even. It's very different to that. As you can see, the GT3 session has now finished. At least they can't start any more laps. But you can finish the one you're on, and that produces the slightly bizarre situation. The Hypercars bearing down on the latter GT3s right at the end of the session, and hopefully not interrupting their lap times, but they do want to get out themselves for a lap, of course. So the 15 GT3s have now set their times. Now it's the time for the Hypercars, and there are a few more of these. It's going to feel pretty daunting for the GT3s on this first run of traffic when the Hypercars are coming through, because it will feel like the train will just never end with the amount that we have on the grid here today.
Yep, and we're expecting to see some familiar faces near the top end as well. We've got, of course, Dan Kirby leading the championship, I believe, and he is just looking absolutely rapid these days. He's won 6 of 11 this season. He's been pole 8 out of 11 of those times as well, and a pole in his last 5 races. Is he going to be able to make it the 6th race in a row that he gets pole? That would be something, wouldn't it?
It would, and it says all you need to know about the pace that he's got, really. David putting it quite well, actually, in the YouTube chat, saying it's more of a whoosh than a vroom. I'll agree with that. If you can visualise those sounds. Well, not visualise, or listenise? Don't know. But yes, it's a very distinct noise that it makes. It does. The NXX will see that out a little bit later on. Again, of course. And by the way, you are correct, David. It is TC and ABS for the GT3s, but you do get traction control in GTEs. No ABS, but you do get traction control, as you would do in a Hypercar as well. Actually, Daniel Kirby makes his way over the line then, and he sets the purple time. It's the 13.3. That's the benchmark. He even caught Hall on that lap and overtook him. So it suggests that maybe Kirby can go even quicker. But based on the evidence of the previous weeks, he's going to be very difficult to catch, Daniel Kirby. Already with a second over the field, already with a really fast lap time. And I'm not sure that the others will have anything to respond with, really.
Yep, it's going to be tough. This man is, godlike levels of pace, and we've seen it time and time again from him. But he's not infallible. He can make mistakes, and mistakes are very much a possibility around Indianapolis with the GT3 cars and the traffic. But as he's even shown, even on his qualifying lap, he's quite good at negotiating that traffic, overtaking one of his rivals in the same machinery on a qualifying lap, still setting the pole time by over a second. That's the kind of level that we've come to expect from him, really. It's otherworldly at times.
I don't know why he didn't complete that lap. Couldn't really see any reason why not, but he decided not to bother, and so he is into the pit lane, out over the line as well for I think George Andalidis, and he goes up to 5th with that time, as you can see. Out of the pit lane he will go again. It's a very quick turnaround, and a very slightly bizarre garage area for Indianapolis. You make your way out over this sort of, I don't even know what surface that is, but you make your way out of there, then onto pit road and out onto the circuit. But you don't have the garages that the old Formula 1 pits used to use back in the day. It's a bit different to that. Valtteri de Broom now makes his way towards the line. He's currently running in the 4th position. It's a 14.7. That's not going to be faster than Daniel Kirby. Certainly not. He stays 4th, does De Broom. Kirby still holding that second margin over the rest. We're halfway through the session now, and the closest driver so far is Brian Hall in the Acura. He is over a second back, but he's still the closest. It really is somewhat a fight of for the best of the rest here in these races when Daniel Kirby is driving like this.
Yeah, certainly hard to put a glove on him, but Brian Hall, closest man so far, is matching his best finish ever, which was at Long Beach. Finished P2 back then, quite a few races ago, so he'll be hopefully looking at this and thinking, yeah, okay, I can maybe get a strong finish here. Whether or not he can touch Dan Kirby, it's a different matter, really, though, isn't it? It's a different kettle of fish altogether.
Yeah, it's going to take something special to knock him off that position, based on what we've seen in recent weeks. Although we have seen it fairly recently. Obviously, I'm going quite a way back now. Again, but over the course of the last 9 races, or 8 races, excuse me, we have seen 5 wins for Daniel Kirby. However, over the course of the other 3 races, he only picked up 3 points. And I know I brought this stat out last race at Fuji when I was trying to look for reasons as to why he might not win, but once again, the point still stands. It seems to be very much all or nothing for Daniel Kirby. He either wins or he at least does finish the race, but barely gets classified, and he's got a couple of decimal points to his name for being classified while finishing outside the top 10. So I think it says a lot, really, that it's very much all or nothing for Daniel Kirby, and that's what the others have got to cling on to, that it's going to be one of those days where he finishes a long way back.
Yeah, possibility, always. Things are never that clear-cut in racing. Anything can happen at any time. And a big factor here for a lot of drivers in this series is also going to be just attendance as well. You see those guys who are quick enough to win races. You've got the likes of Mia Rose and Wouter de Bruyne, who have won races in the past, have definitely got pace in their locker. But they miss a lot of races, and that obviously come the end of the season affects the final standing in a big way.
Yeah, it does. Currently following Ross Smith, who is struggling at the moment. It does seem, we'll ask him about it later. Maybe not like that, but seems to be smoking as well for whatever reason. I don't know what that's all about from the Acura, but clearly having some form of problem. That's not normal, really, is it? You don't see that very often. Sometimes it's... Where did I see it recently? I did see it recently in an R-Factor 2 race, but that was with the new van wall that was released on R-Factor 2, where it was smoking slightly after pit stops because it was overheating slightly. But Ross Smith hasn't recently made a pit stop. He hasn't recently been stopped at all, but he is smoking around the place at the moment.
Yeah, it certainly is. I'm pretty sure that is definitely not normal. So, but it is possible to damage your engine, damage internal parts. As he's almost got very close to damaging the external parts with that spin there. But that's not the way you're supposed to be. The car's supposed to be facing. Yeah, maybe he's caused an issue there. Maybe downshifted a bit too quick, caused a bit of damage to the engine or gearbox, and hopefully. That's not going to affect his race proper. Hopefully that just gets fixed between the sessions. But yeah, that's not where you're supposed to be. I'm wondering if he's just never going to get going again. That might be his qualifying done, possibly.
I'd imagine so, yeah. Less than 90 seconds remaining now. And he's gone back to the garage, so hopefully he won't be causing any trouble for anyone else. But that will be the end of his session now, which is maybe a good thing in terms of the others. We'll have a chat with him soon, of course, but it looks like pretty much everyone's set their times now. 19 Hypercars from what it looks like, and 16, or maybe a little bit less than that, GT3s. Of course, I've warm up very soon just to make sure that nobody has fallen out of the session, and that everyone gets underway in the right session, and we can all see them or whatever. There are standings, so yeah, hopefully everybody stays in the session as we transfer forward, because it doesn't always happen like that. But with 30 seconds remaining, it does look like Daniel Kirby is going to take pole, and it looks like he's going to be ahead of Brian Hall by the looks of it. He's only 10th in the standings, so this is a good performance from him. Timoš Suvic is in third. It's a little bit of a strange top three. It's a little bit topsy-turvy in terms of who's in the top three at the moment. Some names that you don't always expect to see up in those high places.
Yeah, Brian Hall specifically as well. Fantastic qualifying session from his standpoint, for sure. But the race is where it really matters. It's the hard work's still to come as we see the checkered flag there for qualifying. We'll have a short warm-up and a quick driver brief, and we'll be inviting Ross Smith to the booth in short order to give you a rundown on the state of the mod. And but yeah, at the moment, Dan Kirby, untouchable as always, absolutely rapid around here as he is everywhere else, and yeah, can't really look past him for the win today.
It's very difficult to. But a long race ahead, so that's pretty much it. There's a couple more out there, but I think Timo Suvic one of them, but they're pretty much done, and the checkered flag is flying, so that will be it for qualifying, and we will head forward to warm-up now before the hour-long race, the final hour-long race in the Virtual World Sportscar Championship for 2023, the exciting new hypercar era, producing the season that we have had, stretching right the way back to the opener at Daytona and the one following at Sebring, well, Portimao, then Sebring, but that, you know, those early exciting parts of the season, and we all the way get to the end now at Indianapolis, or one of the ending races. Anyway, this race, of course, is taking place exactly a week after the real-life IMSA Indianapolis race, but there will be a little bit less traffic to deal with on that occasion for everybody, which they'll be thankful for, and they'll be glad it's not as long of a race as there's going to be next year in IMSA at Indianapolis. I think it's fair to say, because I think they're having a 6-hour race there now from next year onwards. Wonder what that will do to our schedule here in the Virtual World Sports Car Championship, which does tend to follow WC and IMSA schedules and tends to try and follow their distances in as much detail as possible as well. But we'll wait to see whether the distance of this one changes in the future or whether it even returns, because you just never know. So just less than 10 minutes in this warm-up session now. Do always wonder, Stephen, what of a difference this makes as a driver in terms of staying in the rhythm, getting ready for the race as well. But I think back to when I used to drive fairly regularly, and I think I would always go out in the warm-up session, because getting into that rhythm, getting that feel for the circuit, and feeling like you're in the zone before you actually start the race is very important to having a good start.
Yep, I certainly agree with that assessment. For sure, I would be out there from the very first seconds, really, to try and get as much lap time in as you can, because practice makes perfect, as always, in most things in life. And yeah, if you can kind of squeeze those extra 10 minutes of practice in now, that's definitely worth it. I'm sure there are plenty of drivers out there. I imagine Kimi Räikkönen would have been one who would just prefer to go to the bathroom or something and have a cup of tea and they take a nice little break before all hell breaks loose for the race. But I'm definitely on your side with that one. I would much prefer to get the extra practice in.
Depends who you are, really. Welcome along to Ross Smith, who's now joined us, fresh from the circuit and fresh from qualifying now in this warm-up session. Welcome in, Ross. Firstly, on your qualifying, before we get to the wider mod stuff that we always have a chat about, how was that qualifying for you?
Evening, thank you and welcome. Yeah, I mean, not great. I've been working with George and the team trying to get this thing dialed in, and clearly there are others who have unlocked the potential of the Acura more than any of us have. Obviously, the Porsche is pretty fast. A lot of the all-wheel drive cars are finding a lot of pace here too. So it's just a really tough circuit. But I can tell you that the hot laps are hot, and the stints can get pretty spicy too, as you see a lot of those tires fall off. So that's going to make things a little bit more of a story, I guess, as you get further into the race. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, George obviously has some pace. I mean, the guy works at this track. He's probably run more laps than everyone else here combined on this circuit in the sim. So yeah, good on him being able to represent a little bit there for Team HPD. Hopefully he's able to take it to him during the race. We'll see.
Yes, absolutely. I'm representing the circuit as well, by the sounds of it. I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah.
That he was there, but fair enough. In terms of the the race, obviously you mentioned tyres are going to be a problem. Just what is the decision? I don't want you to tell us what you're going to do because, or what others are going to do because, that would kind of ruin it. But what is the kind of thought process that you have to go through in terms of this race? Because it's not always this big of a discussion point, is it? Soft versus medium tyres in hypercar. Sometimes it's quite obvious and quite simple in terms of your decision, but what's the decision like for everyone on this occasion?
Well, it's a short race, which usually lends itself to softer compounds, but since it's getting pretty toasty right now, I would say that, and it's going to be pretty warm throughout the day. I mean, it's probably, it's supposed to get up to the mid to upper 20s, and I imagine that the track's going to follow suit. So realistically, if guys are out there on softs, they're going to probably find it a lot more difficult to maintain those lap times towards the end. There'll be rocket ships initially, but it's definitely going to be a factor in today's race. The GTs are going to be running mostly mediums, I think, again, because it's a shorter race. You might get somebody who's in a weird off strategy where they run softs, but I think predominantly it's going to be a harder compound is going to be the preferred option. Although hypercars, I mean, it's going to be kind of a toss-up depending on the type of car, which layout you've got. You might see some guys, they'll prefer to go with the soft compounds and then just change them out because they're able to just really crank fast laps, or they'll kind of maybe do a mixture. You can actually mix the axles here if you really want to. Maybe some guys will run mediums on the back and softs on the front to get that turn in. It's a choice. I'm curious to see how things play out with that, but I think attrition is going to be a bigger one to deal with on top. Well, it's just in front of the tire compounds because there are a lot of guys here. I think it was like mid to upper 30s is what we're looking at, and lots of traffic to come in and play because there aren't a ton of passing opportunities before you're back around and starting another lap. So yeah, it'll be fun. You guys will should have a lot to talk about throughout the race. I know James isn't too thrilled about the circuit. I kind of share some of his sentiment too. It's a bit flat, but yeah, I mean it's certainly more. I would say probably exciting in the cockpit as you're going around and turning laps, and maybe some of the real flatnesses to watch from the stands.
We're having, by the way, on the screen, we're having some right palavers with the pit boxes at the moment, but anyway, everyone's just figuring out where they are and stuff, so that's nothing to worry about if you're watching at home, by the way. Let's talk a little bit wider about the mod and all this kind of thing, as we always do. A bit of an update on what's been going on. It's not actually that long since we last raced here, so there's not been that much time, but we have now been racing with this. We're coming towards the end of a season at the moment. We're at the end of September now, just 2 more rounds before the end of the year, and they're quite spaced apart, so not much running left at all. How has the sort of year been, and what are the updates, if there are any, since the last time we spoke only a couple of weeks ago, I think? It's been a big learning experience the whole time. I mean, we've been very pleased with the overall result of how the mods come together. We've been able to get the full grid in here, and it's been tremendous. We've learned a lot too. I mean, we had at the beginning of the year we had Simon Pagenaud, who was learning Daytona and trying to nail the bus stop with our Acura, and so that was just delightful, the kind of feedback he could give us in being able to dial on the tires. The tires are going to change, and they're going to be moved a little bit more towards realistic for the year. Early on, we weren't sure how some of the compounds were going to play out. Obviously, there was a lot of banter back and forth about how to deal with tire warmers and all that. And anyone who's watched the races can see how painfully slow the hypercars are coming out of the pits. I mean, they're getting passed by GT3 traffic like they're in that class. So we're going to do a little bit more to emulate that. You're not going to see the type of guys who can just fly out of the pits and just wing a hot lap in before they've even warmed up. It's going to be a lot more on with what you see in real life, and at least that's the direction we're looking at right now. So testers still have a lot of work to do. We've got 3 new hypercars coming in, and 3 new GTs that are going to come in and join the field. And then throughout the year, we're looking at
bringing on some of the Evo versions of the cars. So you'll see some of the studio cars fall back, and then we'll replace them with our own. That'll get a lot better parity with some of the tires, because obviously they've anyone who's followed the drama from Studio 397 and the way that they've updated things, they've been making their tires better overall, but it's difficult to keep that balance with what we've done and what they're doing, and so this will help us kind of get away from that, and we'll be more dialed in. So we're really excited. We actually have almost all of the cars that we're planning for the modern mod. They are coming in, and we're actually getting those correlated right now, sized up and everything, and then exported for testers to really lay their hands to them. Right now, most of the testing is happening on the historic mod, which I do have some news on. And no, I'm not revealing when it's coming, what year is being represented, but I can tell you that we have been able to look at getting a couple more of the cars back in there. So initially, we had 2 categories. It didn't look like, based off of our setup, we'd be able to get both of them in there and represented. We've done a little bit of compromise with how we've been setting things up, and now we're able to get both categories in there, and there are going to be some fan favorites represented. Those who know the era, they're going to see some of these cars. I know that there are going to be quite a few Brits that will be pleased with some of the selections in there. So we're excited to see a lot of that start to come to fruition.
Yes, we're very excited as well to hear. I've really enjoyed seeing this. Obviously, I wasn't here last year to see last year's historics, but I've enjoyed seeing this year's, and look forward to next year's as well. But yes, it remains a mystery as to what year we're going for. We'll find out soon. So stay tuned. But Ross, thanks for going to chat to us, giving us a bit of an update and all of that kind of thing. And it's time for us to focus in on the race a bit again, because we're not too far away from getting started. So we'll let you go, get ready, and enjoy the race. Thanks for chatting to us again, and hope you have a good race.
Thank you, guys. Have a good race yourselves. We'll give you something to talk about.
Let's hope so. Thanks very much, Ross. Once again, they're chatting to us about the mod generally, and this race coming up as well. It's the 60 minutes of Indianapolis tonight. 3 rounds remaining in the 2023 Virtual World Sports Car Championship, and we're still no closer to finding out some more details about next season, of course, for the historics. He's teasing us as he has been for quite some time now. By the way, I was referring to the 91 cars that we had last year that obviously I didn't actually get to see in the flesh, but like the sound of from last season of the historic version of this championship, and this season it's been 1998 that we've gone for, a little bit further on, but equally as great to see over the course of the year. But it looks like we're about ready now to go racing, and I think we can bring the grid up before long here. Yes, we can indeed. It's Daniel Kirby who's leading us away. Timos Subic is going to be second. Missed that change at the end of the session, actually, but he's ahead of Brian Hall. Jerry Chen will be joining him on the second row of the grid. Valtteri de Bruin rounds out the top 5, with Tom Lane somewhat surprisingly far back. Second in the championship, 6th in the field. Third in the championship's John Hoon, he's 7th. And he's got Carl Vesser alongside. Then it's Micah Locke, who's got pole position in the AMS for the second time in a row. George Andalidis inside the top 10 there in the Acura, ahead of Magnus Dahlgren and Philippe Henrique in row 6. Wayne Hutchison, the championship leader of Hypercar AM, is 13th, ahead of Gilles Lalonde. Then it is Matthew Overton and Ross Smith, very own, we just spoke to him there, in 16th. Eric Meunier is 17th, ahead of Benjamin Porteous Heath. Then it is Jason Whited and William Miller to round out the top 20. In GT, Beck Healy will be on the front row ahead of Jamie Zalecki. Then it's Yuki Takanashi and Yuji Mazur. The championship leader in GT3 is also the leader in the field. He will lead the field away. Matt Buse will be second, and Craig Pullen, who is third. Sashin Sobers and Vinicius Gonçalves will be trapped behind those 3, despite the fact they are not AMS, of course. George Lepetri will be 29th overall, ahead of Vasilis Katerinakis. Daniel Jorgen Lafrancois will be in the 16th row. Stephen Miller and Peter Meyer are quite far back, considering their championship positions. They'll look to move forward, along with Adam Gray and Mac Schunfulamp, who is, I believe, rounding out the grid. I think it's 36 that we've got tonight. And it is. So 36 that we have. I mean, it's a nicely formed grid. We were talking about mid-30s as a nice number, and it is a nice number. We don't have to do 2 splits, which is always a bit difficult to work out in terms of the broadcast and whatever. It's a nice number, but it will feel like a lot of hypercars are coming through on these GT3s, because there are just a few more of our top class we have here this evening.
Yep, it's going to be tricky. It's a short track, as we've said already, and it's going to get congested, especially in these early moments. This is where the biggest danger occurs, and it's at this moment in time as a driver that the nerves really start to affect you. You start really needing the toilet, if you're me. Your hands start shaking, you get a bit of a sweat on, and but once you get settled in, it all kind of comes to you, and you start getting that rhythm. And yeah, even if you do end up in an incident early on, it's a 60-minute race, so there's plenty of time to pull it back as we get underway for our formation lap.
There we go, pulling away from the front. It's an hour and 3 minutes, of course, on the clock, so we can do our own formation lap. But Daniel Kirby does quite fast ones, and he does often give us more than an hour of racing, more than our money's worth, which is fine. And so we are probably going to experience that again, because yeah, it's pretty much it's just over double the normal lap time, isn't it? 3 minutes, and he's certainly not going half the speed. So we are going to get a few more minutes worth at the end of today. If anyone is 76 points or more ahead of their most closest championship rival, then they will be champion here tonight. Daniel Kirby has a pretty realistic chance of managing that, and so does Yuji Mazur maybe have a chance of reaching that as well. They will both need good performances, and we will need to do maths as well on that, but that's going to add a bit of motivation for the both of them, really, the fact that they could clinch this with still 2 rounds remaining.
Yep, and it also takes a little bit of the pressure off as well, because if they do end up with a poor result here, as long as they get some points on the board, they've still got the buffer of those 2 races to come to gain that points. And as time goes on and races go through, as that number becomes less and less as well. So very little pressure on these guys to perform, but that sometimes improves your performance, because, you know, just less nerves, less pressure on you always makes things a little easier.
Yeah, although I've got to say Daniel Kirby doesn't often seem to feel pressure, but yes, it will only help him and not hinder, I wouldn't imagine. So Daniel Kirby is now in control of the field. We do just have just over an hour remaining, but that's absolutely fine. Daniel Kirby will get us underway early with the start. Wonder how long he'll leave it here. It will be right up towards the start-finish line, of course. The field actually quite strung out. Of course, it will remain single file, as we always have these starts in this series. Make sure they don't hit the back of one another, because it is a long wait and a long hold. But Daniel Kirby now just goes underway. The 60 minutes of Indianapolis and the Virtual World Sportscar Championship 2023 is underway, and pole sitter Daniel Kirby is off to a flying start. He leads the way through with Timon Subic diving into turn 1. He wasn't even attempting a move. He wasn't attempting anything, but the gap that Kirby has already got is frightening. Subic will have some work to do as Becky Healy gets us underway in GT3. Down in towards turn 1. She broke quite late there. Oh, and too late. Oh, that's very deep into the corner. And Zalecki will close in as a result on the inside there of the leader. Yuji Mazur was under a bit of pressure as well, but it's been a high intensity start back there in GT. There's Mazur, who is almost being looked at by Matt Pierce, who's in second place in that Lamborghini.
Yeah, what an exciting start there for the GT3s. Orange zone, of course, all the way up to the chicane. If you end up making contact within that orange zone, the penalties are much more severe. But some people are willing to risk that and try and go for those early moves. Obviously, we're all aware in racing that the very start of the race is the best time to gain a lot of positions, and some people are trying to take advantage of that. But so far, so good. Everybody's got through nice and cleanly.
sometimes it's the best opportunity to get penalties as well, so you've got to be mindful of that. Shashin Sobers is making his way through there, and as you can see, it's not a class battle. So he's thrown using Mazur, who will drop back. There's Matt Buse, who's also got Vinicius Gonçalves just behind and putting a bit of pressure on him. I think Sobers' race pace is a lot better than his qualifying pace. That's what it seems to be at the moment. There's the Audi of Gonçalves, who's trying to make his way through on Buse here. Once again, this is an inter-class battle, so Buse and Am will not fight Gonçalves necessarily hard, and the Audi will just use that to his advantage. These two manufacturers, of course, using the same engines, but have pretty similar straight line speed as a result. Gonçalves uses the braking instead to go down the inside of turn 1 and make that move stick. So Matt Buse has pulled back further. This is going to be a problem for this Am leading battle, really, if they keep getting split up by lapped traffic who are not in their class.
Yeah, it's good. Always a challenge at tracks like this, especially multi-class as well. And once these hypercars catch up and come around, that's going to cause even more problems for them and create some gaps. And whoever navigates that traffic the best, and whoever manages to lose at the least time, gives up positions in the right places, could benefit hugely from that. But you said it was frightening how much time he'd gained in the first couple of corners. He's not let up. Dan Kirby, 6 seconds clear of the field, and is running away with it.
He is, and this is exactly the kind of drive we've come to expect from him. Timon Subic is in second place at the moment. There's John Ian, who's inside the top 6 now at least, and he's just behind Tom Lane in the Porsche. They're second and third in the championship, and they will need to be mindful that they could lose championship contention by the end of today. At the start of today, Daniel Kirby had 68 points over the others. If he gains 7 points on them, then he will be champion, and that is by taking a win here. So they need to be pretty mindful of that. Sorry, he needs 9 points, not 7. Taking a win, he does take it as long as either of these two don't finish in second. Tom Lane, indeed, doesn't finish second place, and right now that's happening. So Daniel Kirby is in a very strong place as far as this championship is concerned. It's a good fight though here, from second place on backwards. I know Kirby's absolutely gone, but the train right from Timon Subic backwards is very interesting, although contact, oh no, and more contact as well, bodywork everywhere. One of the BMWs caught up in an early traffic incident.
Yeah, we predicted that one, didn't we? We thought that the traffic was going to be difficult to negotiate, and there we have the BMW just getting all sorts of out of shape there and causing a big problem. Got collected another MGT. We'll have a replay for you here as well. See how that occurred. Look at this, down the inside goes one hypercar, and BMW already squirreling out of shape, getting a back end flitting around like a flies, and it's difficult for them, isn't it? And then there's a bit of contact from one of the hypercars, and it's just been swamped, haven't they?
It's a bit. I think it's a bit later actually. I think this is after the incident that this all happened. That bit of contact down towards would that be turn 4? The sort of long right-hander where you're braking and turning all at the same time. There's one of the Porsches just behind. Anyway, we're trying to find it for the moment. Timon Subic is in second place then. This is through the final turn, a lap on, I do believe. You can barely see Daniel Kirby already. The gap he's got is absolutely frightening at this early on. Doesn't look like we're going to find it, by the way, so we'll go back to live pictures and we'll find the battle again. Of course. Here we go.
Can't catch up with YouTube in the meantime. It's El Capitan is saying, have a good race, Craig. Good vibes. We've got Alicio Neto as well saying, good race, boys. And also giving us a heart shape emoji as well. Great to see you all here. Please let us know any predictions or information that you might have that we don't. But yeah, great to have you here. Don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe if you're enjoying what you're watching. But yeah, back to the battle. We've got Magnus Dahlgren closing in now as well. That's John Uyan as well, quite close behind him, Kyle Vaser. So it is kind of heating up in the mid pack. Kirby's checked out. He's gone. He's got one hand on the trophy already. But here in second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, we've still got a nice little train of cars battling hard.
So Brian Hall is into second place now. Timon Subic is back down to third. And Wouter de Bruyne is not going to let him have an easy ride here at all, even in that third place. John Ewan is very close in the Peugeot behind him. So this is a very interesting battle, I've got to say, in the opening moments of this race. We don't often see this. We see qualifying and then the order spreads out very quickly. And as you can see, Daniel Kirby very much does a lot of that. As Subic, has he gone the pit lane or has he gone off the road? Because he's dropped suddenly, like a stone really, and it's really opened up the rest of them to a bit of a fight now. It's Ewan now who's looking to make some of the moves and can't, so, and contact. Timon Subic goes around, is it? And there's bodywork on the road now as well. He gets back going again. I'm afraid it's not been a great start to the race really for Timon Subic. He's found himself in a lot of trouble and very much got himself hit around there. Actually, he didn't really do anything wrong himself, I don't think, but got hit by someone else, and unfortunately Timon Subic, the one who ended up going around. It was De Bruyne who made that contact, and John Ewan gains 2 places as a result. Not a lot Timon Subic could have done about that.
Not really, no. I've got to put 100% of the blame there on Wout, I'm afraid. Just outbraked himself coming into the corner. Wasn't making that corner in a million years, and ploughed straight into the back of him. It's unfortunate for T-Bob, but hopefully not too much damage, and can recover. There's still plenty of racing to go. 52 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, long way still to go. Jerry Chen now the one behind Subic, by the way. On board then with Daniel Kirby as we make our way through the traffic for the first time, and this is indeed the most dangerous time to be making your way through the traffic as well. 20 hypercars, of course, 16 GT3s, but Kirby has almost negotiated them all within 10 minutes, which is a frightening rate. Oh, and contact! This is exactly the kind of reason why it's never over until it's over. We were speaking about qualifying as if the race was already over before it had begun, but that exact kind of thing is the reason why you can never call this race until it is officially over, because anything can happen even if it isn't your fault.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, we need to see that again to see assign exact blame for that contact, but you've got to be very patient here in the hypercars. There are so many places on this track where it's just far too difficult to take a different line, and the doors close, especially in those left-right-handers where Dan Kirby just almost got caught out. He managed to save it though. He's still going, and it doesn't look like he's lost any bodywork or anything like that, so he should still be on pace. But a warning for sure of things to come. It's difficult to pass here for these hypercars. You've got to be patient.
Yeah, you do. Side by side between himself, Daniel Kirby, and I think it's Michael Locke, is it, who's got back already in the prototypes in the Hypercar AMS. Maybe he's not. Oh, yeah, maybe it is. He qualified on pole, of course. Did Locke, and unfortunately has dropped a long way back. Yes, there he is, in 5th in the Hypercar AMS. Bit of an update, by the way, unfortunately, from Tom Lane, who's in the YouTube chat, says his day is done after the contact with the BMW. Think it was Craig Pullen, was it, who made the contact with him? There aren't many other BMWs. We're trying to get a replay of that. I know we caught it somewhat live, but we didn't get the full story. So we're trying to get that for you. This is earlier on in that lap maybe. Contact with another one of the GT3s and a half spin and a full spin. So that's how he found himself so far off the back of the GT3s, and then later on in the lap got involved with the other hypercars.
Yep, been in the wars has that man. He's Craig Pullen, that we think it was, in the blue BMW there, and yeah, like you say, gets spun around and collects Tom Lane later on as well, who's now out of the race, unfortunately. And yeah, that is the danger. Look at that, spinning on their own afterwards as well, so maybe some damage already to the car from that first incident, making it difficult to control. Very difficult even to get it pointing again in a straight line by the looks of things. So definitely not Craig Pullen's day. He got some congratulations in the chat, I believe, before the race started. You're having a good race, said El Capitan. It's not gone quite so well so far.
So a bit later, then there is an incident with him. I think he's the one who picks it off. As Tom Lane arrives on the scene and makes the contact. So there's Subic, who's just behind him. He'll dive, will he? No. not really. And then there's the final corner. Does Pullen get it wrong on his own? Does he have contact? So he sneaks, he goes what? Okay, I see what's happened here. So with the extra bit of downforce that those hypercars have, Subic tries to go around the outside of Pullen through that final corner. The GTs can't stay that close and that tight to the inside because they haven't got the same level of downforce that the hypercars have had. Then Pullen gets into the side of Subic, who's unbothered, by the way, and then spins in front of the pack, leaving Tom Lane pretty much nowhere to go. Oh dear, well, we've got a big mess down here. Someone's got a rear wing off down at the final corner. It's one of the prototypes. So does it involve Ross Smith, maybe? I'm not entirely sure. I think he's just gained as a result of it, but we've got carnage by the looks of things, and these hypercar drivers have got to remember the GTs don't have as much grip as them, especially in those medium to high speed corners.
Yeah, it's all getting very congested down there, as it looks like Wayne Hutchinson was the one who got a big slap on the backside there. We'll have a replay now to see exactly what happened, but yeah, it looks like not a lot he could have done about that really, but he stopped in the first corner there, and yeah, just trying to squeeze around the outside, loses his rear wing there. That gets pushed across the track by a couple of other cars, but it's getting very, very congested now. He got collected twice again. He can't go anywhere. He's got to stay put. He's got to hold his brake, and everybody's going to be aware of that. They would have had yellow flags. That have seen the smoke and things, but yeah, that is unfortunate for him. He did the right thing, stayed put, held the brake, and got collected anyway.
Well, to be honest, when you're facing the right way,
maybe he should have gone. Yeah,
I think he should have just moved, to be honest. If you face, it's always a hold your brake situation when you're facing the wrong way. You don't want to turn around in front of the racetrack and in front of the oncoming pack, which there really was one there. But when you're facing the right way, you might as well just go. So, unfortunately, Wayne Hutchinson, well, to be fair, his rear wing was already off by the time he had fully stopped to wait for everyone. So, you know, there wasn't actually a lot he could have done anyway. But, yeah, in future, just try and get yourself out of that situation if you can do. Big news though, because he is the championship leader, of course, of Hypercar AM, and so he can't afford to be losing these points to the likes of Enrique, especially, who is second in those standings. 34 points is the gap between them, so it's not going to change hands today, the championship lead, but at the moment Enrique would take 10 points back in his favour. As there's another spin there. Who on earth is that? It might be Hutchison again, actually, who was off the road there. It might be a lap down. We heard from Ross Smith earlier, it might be an attritional race, and it's turning out to be so far in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, we've beat this dead horse quite a bit already, but the traffic here is an absolute nightmare, and the hypercars are really discovering that for themselves. It's so easy to make a mistake. You make a mistake around such a narrow track with very few lines available to you. It's very easy to start collecting other drivers, and at the moment we've got through the worst of it, I suppose now, because the hypercars should now have navigated the majority of the GT3s, but there was that moment there where you've got two big groups of cars from both classes coming together on the racetrack. By the time they come around the next time, it'll be a bit more spread out, it'll be a little bit easier, but we are expecting to see more drama as this race unfolds. It's so difficult to avoid these accidents when things start going wrong.
Using Mazur here has managed that so far at least, but he has lost his lead. Joshua Petrie is the one behind him now in GT3. Hutchinson's making his way back out onto the circuit again, as you can see on the left-hand side there. But this is going to get even more difficult when the tyres start to wear, as we spoke about earlier on and heard earlier on, that these tyres don't stay in the window for very long. It's a big worry, and there's a big worry here. Daniel Kirby's in the pit lane for some reason. I don't know if he's had an incident or whether this is part of the plan, but surely not, because based on this he would end up making 3 stops today. Well, this can't be part of the plan. He's got a lap down to his teammate John Huyen, who's all of a sudden leading the way in this race. I was about to say, as Tom Lane announced his departure and his retirement from this race, that Kirby was all but guaranteed the title today, but that was provided John Huyen stayed where he was. Well, not anymore. Huyen is making up places. He's in the lead, and Kirby all of a sudden is way down, a lap down indeed.
Yeah, that's not gone his way at all. He definitely had some damage there as well. We saw him getting that repaired in the pit lane. You saw his little front bump, that's sticks out just the splitter there, popping back into place. So he's had an incident somewhere along the line. We'll see if we can get a replay. We'll let you know if we can. But yeah, that's not the way he wanted things to go. He's got a lot of work to do now, Dan Kirby, and John Uyan will be laughing all the way to the bank.
Let's see, we might be able to show you what happened to Daniel Kirby. Oh, it's all. Oh, so that's it. It's all. Oh, is that okay? Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. I thought that the way we jumped around there, I thought he disconnected. Oh no, he gets collected instead by one of the Hypercar AMs. In the end, well, that was a very near to a dangerous rejoin, but gets away with there. I think it was Benjamin Porteous Heath in the Toyota, was it? Oh, not sure. Yes, I think it was. Who just gets into the grass there, doesn't he? Goes wide, spins in front of Kirby. That's exactly what we were saying earlier. When, you know, there's always these dangers. We were speaking about Daniel Kirby leading the race by some way. However, there are things that you can't control in one of these races, especially when there are so many around you. And if you get caught up in someone else's incident, then it affects you just the same. And that's what Daniel Kirby has experienced right now. He has got a mighty job on his hands to recover this, but given his pace, I don't even think this is out of reach for him. He could very much still get right up towards the front again.
Yep, biggest factor that is going to help him in that is the traffic that the guys ahead of him are going to hit and how quickly he can navigate it in comparison to them. But at the moment, he's got a nice bit of space out on the track right now, but he's got a few GT3s to clear, which he's doing so in style at the moment. He's not. He's going to be aggressive from this point on as well. He cannot hang about. He can't worry about that incident and drive too cautiously. He's got to really put the hammer down now.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, I think he was before, even if it wasn't entirely necessary. I'd be a little bit scared if he wasn't. Put it that way, because he was quite far away from the rest. We're somewhat remarkably already nearly a third of the way through this race. It's the final hour-long edition of the Virtual World Sportscar Championship for 2023, and it's been quite a remarkable one so far. Jamie Zalecki is down to 5th place, which is a big story in the GT3 Championship. Becky Ely's still leading here, but Zalecki needed to at least reduce the disadvantage he was going to experience, if not sort of reduce the disadvantage, and now he's gone for a spin at the final, not the final corner, excuse me, through turn 10, and it's taken a long time to get going as well. Get going again safely is a very difficult operation from there.
Almost another repeat of the story there as well with Dan Kirby, where he almost took out a hypercar, but avoided it, just about avoided it as well. But they were patiently waiting here and keeping himself off there. He's still not going and reversing into the barrier. That's not what you want. That's definitely going to do a little bit of damage to the rear wing, cost some pace. We have real struggle here to get going in the end, trying to get the car angled as shallowly as possible, which is definitely the right thing to do. But maybe had opportunities to get back going again. That grass does not look very comfortable to drive on either.
When he's been shot there by one of the Ferraris, needs to be careful of that. As I said, the GT3s will feel like they've got a lot going on around them at the moment. So Zalecki is 5th, Petronakis is in 4th. Becky Ely still leading, of course. Don't know what's happened to Sutton, so where he's gone at the moment, but he's not inside the top 6. Maybe this is a reason. It is. He's gone for a spin there at turn 4 and straight into the gravel for the Mercedes driver. He was involved with traffic, which was on the outside, and again it's a case of prototype drivers not quite understanding the disadvantage in grip that the GT drivers have. You've got to remember those prototypes are so aerodynamically sound. They're so strong at high speed and medium speed corners. The GTs just can't hold those kind of lines. The grip they have is far less.
Yeah, those GT3 cars a lot heavier as well, and the way you drive them, really, you drive them with the throttle out of the corners, as you do most corners, to be fair. But it's all about managing the weight transfer in the GT3s, and it's it's always leading one way or the other, and it's going to drag you out wide all of the time. So some of these hypercars not quite, as you say, understanding the limitations of the GT3s and where they're going to end up on the racetrack given any given line. So yeah, we're going to see more of that for sure. These hypercars vastly different in performance window to the GT3s, and you've got to be a bit more patient and wait. I think the best place to do it really is out of the corners. You don't want to be trying to go around the outside in the mid corner. You want to be getting these GT3s on traction and just out dragging them to the next corner, really.
Yes, you do. There is, of course, a hybrid involved for some of those. The hybrid punch for some of them. Every car but the Glickenhaus in the Hypercars has them, but there are no Glickenhauses in the field today. Anyway, there's only one entered ever in this season. Yeah, as far as I can tell, only one, which James will not be pleased about. But anyway, nobody seems to want to drive it. Oh, that's a bit wide and that's a bit messy. Dear me, Alain Lefrancois there going around eventually. Around Lepetri, who went wide, and then straight through goes Matt Buse. He's lost a few places in that last few laps. It's beautiful, but now is back onto the podium again, getting 2 for the price of 1. That was a really awkward moment there. I don't know what happened to Lepetri really, but went wide, got into contact with Lefrancois, and Matt Buse gets through on both of them. Now it's side by. Well, this is very aggressive. Now that's a big dive. Oh, careful everybody. That was amazing. They've all got through there. Matt Buse loses the place. Alain Lefrancois through. And I really thought he was going to overshoot and hit that hypercar in towards turn 1. But he pulls it up on the brakes in time. And he's back on the podium again.
And that's just goes to show you how good the brakes of the GT3s are in comparison to those hypercars. Very little difference in performance under the brakes, which allows him to get that move in some style. Very brave from everybody concerned, particularly the man on the outside there in the hypercar. Really had to have faith that he wasn't going to get collected, but not a lot of options really for him there. He had to kind of stay in it, stay committed, and in the end, it all turned out all right. Great racing from everybody involved.
Well, it was eventually. I was fearful for a while that it wouldn't be, but thankfully it turned out all right. 37 minutes remaining then, and we're not too far away from the halfway mark, but the hypercar pit stops are happening right now. Brian Hall is leading the way now, and I think that's because John Ian has been into the pit lane already, and that's why he's dropped a bit further back. Of course, with a 2-stop race, Hypercars can pit on 40 minutes to go and then 20 minutes to go, and that's all fine. So I believe that has been the case for him. George Andalidis is in at the moment, for example. Ian is in the pit lane as well right now, although I do feel he's been there for a while, maybe a bit too long. But anyway, we'll see how it shakes out on the other side of these pit stops, these pit stop proceedings. And we'll not worry about that. We'll push them to one side for the moment. The GT3s are still providing great racing. Not so long ago, at the end of the 1 hour of Fuji, of course, we had a last lap pass in GT3 AM. It was a change for the lead right at the very end of that race, and eventually it was Stuart Barge who made his way through and took the win in that one, just ahead of Alain Lefrancois, who nearly got that win in his first race, back scoring points again after a round away. So I wonder what we're going to see this time from the GT3 AM. It's been a good start to the race for them, and they're staying over the course. You know, if you talk about a wide field spread, then the GT3 AMs are staying by far the closest, really, in terms of their field spread from the top 5 or so. It's still pretty close, really, considering we're nearly halfway into this one now.
Woody De Bruyne also in the pits by the looks of things as well. He was closing in on Hall. It was in the 1 second mark, but decided to go for the undercut to try and get the pass done. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out once Hall has his pit stop. The Hypercars, we're expecting a 2-stopper for those, but the GT3s, I think we're only expecting the 1. But it all depends on how much the temperature is affecting the tyres. A few people coming in seem to be going quite a distance at the moment and lasting quite a while. Would you say? It all depends on which tyres people have chosen, of course, but maybe people will come back in and do a soft stint for the very end for the Hypercars and get those soft tyres put to work at the business end of the race.
It very much depends which tyres they've gone for, to be fair, but still, it's getting towards that point now, through the halfway point in this race, where we could, well, we are going to see those tyre changes. Matt Booth is still in front of Stephen Miller, I think this is, or is it Jamie Zalecki again? I think it is actually, isn't it? Jamie Zalecki, who is now 5th in the GT3, the non-AM category. The green on the left, found himself behind Matt Busey's, got a bit wide there, pulls it up just up in time. GT3s can brake surprisingly late, and now comes into the pit lane. I do wonder whether there's a bit of a concern in terms of fuel here, because the GT3s normally want to do a one-stop race, but if you're pitting with still 34 minutes to go, then that is a bit of a concern.
Yeah, we were told beforehand as well that GT3's their fuel management is going to be important here today as well. There's one stop to make it work. You have to do a fair bit of fuel saving. A few people did run out here earlier in the week, and wondering if maybe some people haven't watched that or learnt the lessons from it, and are maybe going to come unstuck near the end of the race, have to do a splash and dash, or possibly we've seen it before in plenty of times in racing, just run out of fuel on the track and limp back around and end up not finishing. But so far so good for these GT3 drivers, as the majority of them not pitting as it stands, and Becky Ely has a commanding lead in the pro category, 14 seconds over Takanashi.
It is a relatively comfortable lead at the moment for Becky Ely. I'm very glad that Zalecki is not the one right behind as well. That championship lead is going to go over 10 points in her favour at the end of today. Don't think, well, no, she can't take the title at all today, but maybe you try and get that one sorted and signed, sealed, delivered, if you like, before the end of the race at Road Atlanta. 100 minutes there, which is an hour 40, of course, I'm sure you're aware, and so that's what's coming up very soon. Johnny just behind Matthew Overton here. This is a nearly getting into the realm of a one-stop race for some of these guys now. Down the inside goes John Uyen into the top 5, but he will be making 2 stops today, and I wonder if he'll be fearful of some of those who will not. Brian Hill managed a one-stop at Fuji, didn't really work out for him, but maybe staying out there at the moment, this is working out for him at Indianapolis, where you do lose a lap for making a full stop, as these guys will have to do at least once, but usually twice.
That was have to be said. That was absolutely clinical from Mr. Uyan there. Managed to overtake the Hypercar as well as the GT3 at the same time, and left his Hypercar compatriot stuck behind the GT3 there in the first couple of corners, and already on the back of the next one as well. Cutting through the traffic with ease at the moment is Mr. John Uyan, and long may it continue for him. He's got some catching up to do, and is odds on to win this race, but Hall still yet to pit. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out in comparison to Uyan, having been just a little bit way behind him when Uyan made his pit stop.
Yeah, I said Brian Hill earlier, didn't I? I didn't mean that, sorry. Brian Hall. Pit stops happening for the others. Timon Suvic is in, Eric Moynier as well, as a few other, Jerry Chet. So, pit stops are happening now, but that's still only 29 minutes. They're teetering on the edge of a one-stop there, but they're not quite definitively getting there. Brian Hall is, though, and I reckon this is putting his hat into the ring for a one-stop. And with the gap that he has over last time at Fuji, it really wasn't convincing, and maybe that's partly because Daniel Kirby was there. But in terms of getting a race win here, Brian Hall's gap at the moment is fairly convincing, and it makes you wonder what the gap's going to look like after Uyan's made his second stop, which surely he will need today.
The main issue Hall's got at the moment, though, is that his tyres are falling off, and falling off hard. There we've seen Uyan. He's already collected quite a bit of time, but that is Hall into the pits now. That's why the time's coming down so rapidly. So we'll see now whether or not Uyan can get past in with the undercut. But Hall so far so good. It's been a terrific race from him. He's odds on to either match or beat his best finish of the race so far at P2. Oh, we've got an incident here. That's a late turn in as well, and then that's very elbows out turn in once more, and that is some battle there for first in the AM category between Locke and Enrique, and that is that is very elbows out. What do you say? What do you make of that there, Ewan?
never mind elbows out, that's an elbow in the face, because that was aggressive in towards turn 1. Enrique and Locke going to battle in towards that first turn. There was moving under braking, moving afterwards, and all sorts going on there. Hard to find too much really wrong with that kind of thing when both drivers are so involved within it that you know, it's hard to really mark either of them down. But you know, fair play and carry on with it, because it is entertaining stuff. I think Locke is going to find his way through pretty soon, though. He just seemed to have the pace. And last couple of pole positions in a row now, does Locke, and just doesn't seem to have the race pace sometimes, and stuff like that doesn't help him either. He's in the grass now at turn 12, and it's just about consistency in these races. I don't think he's quite got there yet. In terms of pace, there's no denying that he's got it, but you've got to find your way through on these drivers, and you've got to find your way through an hour-long race and navigate your way through one of these races without having as many incidents and problems as he seems to have managed over the course of the last few rounds.
Yeah, very entertaining battle between them two there. It's almost like they're at war, bayonets at the ready. But they, once again, a mistake there from the man behind, and it's not worked out. So he's got to regather himself, collect himself, and go again. But this is the man on the screens at the moment, Dan Kirby, up to P3. So he's been out there in the background just running his own race, putting in smashing lap after smashing lap, and he's well on course for a great recovery after that earlier incident getting collected by a spinning car.
Yeah, that was Ben Buttis-Heath in the Toyota who collected him earlier. But Daniel Kirby is back on the road again and closing in again on Johnny and Magnus Dahlgren, actually, who's second. I think he's pitted already. As Dahlgren, but he's just done very well through the pit stop phase and just generally over the first half of this race. I mean, I said it at the time, Kirby's still got a great chance of winning this race. The only concern that I have is the fact that he did pit with about just over 45 minutes remaining, and if he was planning on doing 20-minute stints, then that suggests he might have to make 3 stops today. Now, we've seen that half an hour actually is possible in these hypercars, so maybe he could just do a little bit of saving, reduce it to 2 stops, but even so, that's got to be a bit of a concern, and that will take away slightly from his pace. Whichever one he decides to do, he's either going to have to make an extra stop or slow down a bit, neither of which is going to help his overall race time.
Certainly not. He's definitely got a lot of thinking to do to get himself back up into the top spot. He's also obviously got the people ahead of him who don't want to give up that spot as well. He's going to have to pass them on track, and if they get their elbows out and get defensive, that's going to make it all the more difficult. But if anybody can do it, Mr. Kirby can. He has shown incredible racecraft throughout the series, and he's once more showing it here as he's all over the back of, I'm not sure who, but I'm pretty sure they are lapped. So he's got to make his way through traffic once more, and there he is, out of the chicane. Absolute beautiful line there, and gets him with ease. That's on Enrique, in fact.
So, yes. So he's putting a lap on him, or is that an overall place? I think he's putting a lap on him there. Even though Enrique's in the lead of the class, I don't think he's on the lead lap of the race anymore. No. Bruin is next in line. So just behind. So okay, it's Peugeot versus BMW then here for third in class. Surprised that De Bruyn's doing so well. I think it does just explain to us that Daniel Kirby isn't quite running at full pace right now. He is having to tame this back a little, or hold this back a little bit for now, because there are maybe some slight fuel concerns there. He's not ripping the field apart in the way that he was earlier, put it that way.
Yep, it's all about the phases in a long race like this. You can't be at 100% all the way. You certainly got to check up a little bit for traffic here and there. They'll obviously hurt your lap times, but it's all about getting a nice average lap time rather than just banging 5 quick ones and then 5 slow ones. It's just about consistency more than anything else. And Dan Kirby is your man for that. He's up to P3 in class. And not long to go before the people in front may have to pit again as well. So he obviously has another pit stop to go, and he's going to cost him a little bit, but at the moment he's doing exactly what he needs to do.
He is, but doesn't want to run out of time later to make those moves. Has to be careful of that. We've got to remember as well that Ian is on fresher tyres, having pitted more recently, so Maybe that's playing into a role as well. You'd imagine in terms of tyre selection that Kirby went on softs at the start of the race and probably has remained with that, although maybe went to the mediums if he's realised that he's going to have to do a couple of longer stints now to the end of the race. I think Brian Hall is certainly on mediums since he's doing a one-stop race and he's going a little bit longer than almost everybody else in this field. It sort of has to be on mediums really for that to really work for him. So a steady trickle of cars down pit lane. I'll do an update on the GT3 couple of standings when they all shake out, but for the moment it's pretty busy down in pit lane. But for the GT3s, it's a fairly easy one-stop. Not that it's an easy thing to think about or strategy to do or whatever, but there's not multiple stops in there. It's a bit more of a simple race for those GT3s who will only have to come down pit lane once.
As start again in the meat of drink in the midway point, past the midway point, it's starting to spread out a little bit, but we'll still have plenty of action to bring to you as cars are getting lapped left, right and centre. As that spread also means that the obstacles are more spread out as well, and anything can happen at any moment in multi-class racing, as we've already saw with a couple of people already getting collected, and the war of attrition is just calming down a little bit for the moment, and but yeah, we'll bring more news when we have it.
Yeah, more action to come for sure in this one. Kirby not getting away from Wouter de Bruyne here at all in the field, and they're not that far ahead of some of those further behind as well. Carl Vesser is the next in line. He hasn't even had any top fives yet this season as Vesser. So he's had one. That was at Le Mans. When he was able to get that result along with Bradley Sellers, so that was a shared effort, if you like. Don't want to take anything away from it, but it's slightly different, I suppose, when you're sharing the car. On that occasion, for Le Mans, they finished in third of that race, so doesn't know what it takes to finish on the podium indeed, but hasn't done it on his own so far this season. Johnny is still leading the way then. He's in third in the championship, by the way, having taken a couple of wins this season, but one of those wins, as I said earlier, was shared by Daniel Kirby. The two of them shared their car at the 4.8 hours of Le Mans that we had in the summer, and they took that Peugeot victory by the end of that race. And at the moment, he's needing to chase down his teammate for this championship. Needs to win. If he wins this race, then he keeps it alive, put it that way. That's the simplest way I can put it to you at the moment. If he doesn't, then things get more complicated. But right now, he would be keeping this championship alive, at least for the final two rounds. Unfortunately for him, though, Daniel Kirby's looking like a formidable force. We were talking about what might happen if he gets involved in an incident at some point. Maybe it would change things up. Well, he's had an incident in this race, and look, he's still doing absolutely fine. So it's a somewhat demoralising moment for some of the others to see this kind of thing.
He's certainly a hard man to stop there, and Wouter de Bruyne now is in danger of losing touch with them. It looks like he already has, in fact, out of the drag of the slipstream after he made a mistake there in the final corner. Just went over onto the dust, over the grass, cost him quite a bit of time, that made him lose touch, and that's the traffic causing problems and pushing people offline, forcing mistakes out of people. Dan Kirby just seems unflappable by it all. Obviously, not a lot he could have done to avoid the incident. You can't. Nobody's got that kind of reactions. You have to be literally Superman to avoid that kind of incident. But he's got going again. It looks like there he's going into the pits. Was that Dan Kirby going into the pits ahead there? I'm not sure, but he will have to stop once more, and that stop, it is him in the pits now. So Wouter de Bruyne takes the position back up to P3 for the time being, but maybe Wouter has to pit once more as well, and remains to be seen how it's going to shake up. And Dahlgren at the moment as well is showing that he's not out of this either. He's maintaining that gap to Uyan, and he's not without pace himself. He's 5th in the championship. One win under his belt so far this season at Monza, and definitely in still with a shout, especially if things don't go the way of the Peugeot drivers.
Imagine if you are still requiring a stop in this race, it will happen in the next 10 minutes, and that goes for any class in the field. So expect to see some more hypercar pit stops soon, including the two championship leaders in the two hypercar classes are both in together right now, Daniel Kirby and Wayne Hutchison. both in there as things stand. That championship lead for Hutchinson is just going to come down a little bit by at least 10 points. It's going to be below 30 by the end of the day, that is for absolute sure. With still 76 on the table in the last 2 rounds. It's going to be a very exciting Road Atlanta before the finale at Bahrain. Through the final corners comes Roger de Bruyne at the moment. He's just a couple of seconds behind Magnus Dahlgren, excuse me. We're very much in that holding pattern in the race at the moment. We're sort of waiting for those final stops, then it's going to kick off, then we're going to see where everybody is, and we're going to see who's going to win this race. But for now, we're sort of holding the gaps where we are. I mean, Lewis held 7 seconds for ages over Dahlgren, and De Bruyne's continuing to stay just 2 seconds back on Dahlgren at the moment. The top 3 not changing even their gaps between each other for the last 10 minutes or so, which is somewhat bizarre, but it very much reflects our feelings on this race. We're very much waiting for those final pit stops, then the action's going to be, because we don't know, there are many unanswered questions indeed. Can Brian Hall even hold on with this one-stop strategy? Who of the one-stoppers is going to hang on here? That's the real interest in this race, and it is very interesting. It will be for the final 10 minutes especially.
Yep, it's interesting to see how it's all going to shake down and what's going to come out of it once it's all settled as well. Let's catch up with the chat though as well. We've got Mr. Reese in chat saying, what a destruction derby, and Mr. Reese also saying Craig Pullen has been involved in 4 incidents by now, and still going by the looks of things, but I hope that thankfully he hasn't been involved in one for a while, but relatively clean, I have to say, for an Indianapolis race so far. We'll obviously expect incidents, we're going to get incidents in racing, as always. It's very hard to avoid them. But let's have a look here on board with Zalecki. We've got him going hammer and tongs at Vinicius here. Is this going to be an overtaking anger on track? It's looking that way.
Zalecki needs to, of course, gain some more places here, and this will be a good way to do it with a pass on Gonçalves. I think second is still possible. I think Becky Healy's well, I don't say cruising, but certainly on her way to a 4th win in a row in the GT4 Championship, and with the likes of Brandon Gatlott here at GT Tami as well, it could become a 2-horse race very quickly. It's just been a problem for her to get it together in the longer races. I mean, there were more points available at the 60 laps of the Glen. She scored 0 at Le Mans, where there were the most points available the entire season. She only scored 12. Sebring only 12, didn't score any at Daytona. It's been a real problem in these slightly longer races for Becky Healy to score points, and that's going to have to change in the last 2 rounds. Meanwhile, Jamie Zalecki's going to make that life as difficult as possible by going down the inside here, and will make his way through into 3rd place. So at least it's a recovery to the podium for Jamie Zalecki, but not the ideal race all in all. I think he may have felt that he could have challenged Becky Healy today if he hadn't had problems earlier on, but unfortunately he has done, and he's just on a damage limitation run at this stage, really.
Yeah, Becky Healy will be very satisfied with that as well, and Vinicius there not really putting on much of a defence against Zalecki into turn 1 there, so it was a bit of a textbook manoeuvre, and we've started to see a few hypercars come through the pack now as well. Very, very difficult, as you see there, that hypercar trying to go down the inside there, but you just can't outbrake these GT3s in the hypercar. It's all about getting the exit right instead, and if you're trying to go for the move on the brakes in the hypercar, then you're not really setting yourself up to get the move done the right way on the exit anyway. So you've got to be a lot more patient than you do at other tracks, I suppose. But for the time being, Zalecki on damage recovery mode, up into P3. Things are going in the right way for the second half of the race for him.
At least that is a positive take from this one. So things have very much settled down. I mean, it was a very attritional start to this race, and the first 20 minutes or so, that first half an hour indeed, was quite mental, but the 15 minutes after that have been a little bit calmer. Now we can see Daniel Kirby is definitely that was a slight, I think that was Daniel Kirby making his way through on Zalecki there. I'm not sure where Kirby is in the standing now, but I think he's just about to go a lap down. Well, he's probably not going to actually go a lap down, but he's probably teetering at the moment on that. Ben Porteous Heath just made up a place as well, or at least a track position on one of the hypercars. That's his Toyota, you can see in the black and red, making a way through. There's Kirby, down the inside of Meunier, actually. So he is up to 9th place. Daniel Kirby back inside the points again, inside the top 10. But I'd imagine it's going to be a lot more than that by the end of the day. He's got some catching up to do, of course. The likes of Brian Hall are probably over half a minute in front of him at the moment. But if anyone can do it, then it has to be Daniel Kirby, really. He's still got a quarter of an hour to do it.
He's still got a lot of work to do. That's his teammate there right behind him in the red liveried Peugeot as well. So he's only a couple of hundred yards, if that, away from being lapped. And that could be difficult to recover from with the blue flags every time you overtake. But he's got pace. He's definitely got pace over his teammate as well. And he's navigating this traffic well. And it's just about damage limitation for him really at this stage. It's looking more and more unlikely that he's going to be able to fight his way back through to the top spot. It all depends, of course, on who's got another pit stop to make and who can manage the race best in terms of tyres and fuel as well. But at this stage, Daniel Kirby could be losing out to in championship points on a race where he possibly could have taken the title, but that does not look on the cards anymore.
No, it's well, no, but I really don't know who is going to win this race, to be honest with you. John Ian still has to make a stop, by the way. Magnus Dahlgren was running second, don't forget. So Dahlgren was about, what, 7 seconds behind Ian previously. There he is, just behind Ross Smith, who still has to make a stop, by the way. Well, or I believe, anyway. So Dahlgren will now try and find a way through in the Ferrari. It's a bit of a half look there. And not a decisive one at all. Here's Daniel Kirby right on the back. There goes Dahlgren. He realises the urgency of the situation. Has to go down the inside of the penultimate turn. And Ross Smith pushed so wide that Daniel Kirby's going to go through immediately here. He can't go through at the final corner, but it will be a switch back to the inside and a run down the front straight, although the Acura's pretty fast in a straight line. And it has the straight line speed of the Ferrari in front as well. That's not going to put Daniel Kirby from diving, though. He is very late on the brakes, but does get it pulled up in time, and now he's right behind Magnus Dahlgren.
Certainly is, and that could be his finishing position come the end of the race. This could be a battle for P2 that we're witnessing here, and Dahlgren just looks like he knows that as well. He is really putting his foot to the floor and trying to shake Kirby off, which is very much easier said than done. I think I feel like it's always only a matter of time before Kirby makes his way past here, and that means that maybe Kirby could well just about be in with a shout, but you are maybe going to have to make a mistake unless I'm underestimating Kirby's pace. He did have unbelievable pace compared to the rest of the grid. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he is still in with a shout. We'll have to wait until the dust settles from the pit stops, but these guys at the moment P7 and 8, and maybe some stops to come in front. Brian Hall on for the one stopper still in P2. Maybe he's got the strategy call correct, and he could end up winning this as well if John Ewan still has to pit.
George Anderlidis has to pit, and he has done now, so Dahlgren's up to 6th, and this is a fight for 6th. Now John Ian's into the pit lane. Thought he was going to, but as that went on, I was starting to doubt myself even more as we went along. So John Ian's now in the pit lane. We've got a lap to sort of figure out whether Dahlgren's going to be ahead or behind here. Given that Dahlgren in the Ferrari was 7 seconds behind Ian before these pit stop phases, I think that even with a near 10-minute undercut, I don't think Dahlgren's going to be able to go through. It might not even be him anyway. Daniel Kirby has got a fantastic exit off of the chicane as Dahlgren was slowed up by a lap car. Kirby tries to take the both of them, and he does get through. He just about cuts across on the nose of the Ferrari. He is now through, and now he's going to find his way through on another lap car as we stand here. I think it's one of the, well, I don't know who it is actually. Through he goes, Daniel Kirby up to 6th place then, and how close is he going to be to his teammate?
It remains to be seen. I think he had Chopper Sounds and Fortunate Son playing in the background there as he tried to get past Porteous Heath in the same place. He had the accident with him there, so yeah, I'm sure there was a bit of PTSD, a bit of a sweat going on there for Kirby, but he gets past Dahlgren, and now it remains to be seen how close he can get to that podium places as at the moment. We've got De Bruyne, Suvic, Hall and Uyan in front of him still. Whoever of those still needs to make a pit stop, we are yet to find out. It's all tense as we come into the final 10 minutes of the 60 minutes of Indianapolis, and we're starting to see moves in real anger, and there's still plenty of traffic to negotiate as Kirby there getting past a GT3 in spectacular fashion once more. He just doesn't seem to, he just knows exactly, he's always in control of the car, that's the main thing I think. And that defence there into this corner for Dahlgren as well, he positioned that car beautifully to make it as difficult as possible for Dahlgren to make any kind of comeback.
Well, Johnny's final pit stop was a lot shorter than I imagined, actually, so he's out in the lead, ahead of Brian Hall, then Timon Suvik, Bouncing de Bruyne, then it's Daniel Kirby, who is, half a minute back at the moment on the overall lead, so I think Johnny Ian might well take this and might well keep this championship alive. Michael Lock is currently leading in Hypercar and just ahead of Felipe Enrique, by the way, and so that could be one to watch. There's only around a second between them at the moment, although I do have my question marks about Lock making it to the finish from here. Although they're only already 9 minutes left. It's quite late to leave it now. But you never know. So Lock may have some defending to do. Becky Ely is looking fairly comfortable ahead of Takanashi and Zalecki, like joining her on the podium. And then further back we've got the GT3 spread out now as well. So there's Becky Ely, a long way ahead of Takanashi. Michael Lock is not far in front of Felipe Enrique though. There is Lock, and there I believe is Enrique, isn't it, in the Acura. So that's not a big gap at all. There's Michael Lock in the Porsche. There it is, yeah, so that is the gap, just over a second. This is going to be the grandstand finish we're going to get. We thought it was, well, I thought anyway, it was going to be for the overall lead, but no, it's going to be for Hypercar Am instead. But it looks even closer. Enrique certainly with the one with the speed at this stage.
Yeah, these guys left no love on the table either. The last time they came together on track, elbows were definitely out, moving under braking, all kinds of shoving and pushing going on as well. I expect to see more of the same in the final 8 minutes here, as they're going to be battling for this lead till the death of this race, and maybe to the death of each other if they get things a little bit wrong. But big swing as well in terms of Tom Lane in the championship for the pro category as well. He's DNF'd early on in this race. That means that John O'Yan, with his win, possible win coming here, Hall is only 3.5 seconds behind. Maybe he can get the hammer down and start to put pressure on John. But that is going to mean that regardless of what happens between those two, John O'Yan is going to jump to second place in the championship. Still some way off his teammate Dan Kirby. But it is going to start meaning things get a little bit tighter come the last two races of the season.
Yep. Enrique breaks a bit late there. Yes, it will be a little bit, but I don't think there's a lot that he can do really at the moment. So with 10 points, would Kirby be putting Tom Lane out of contention here? Yes, he would. Kirby can't afford to lose any, well, he can afford to lose one place, but not two. But Tom Lane looks to be out of championship contention with this result here, unfortunately for him. So it's going to be between the two teammates, the two Peugeots, and our titles will maybe be settled next time out. Doing a good job of holding on to this lead for the moment. I said Enrique earlier had the speed, but they seem actually pretty well matched. With 6.5 minutes to go, a lot of the gap is changing because of traffic, really, more than anything else. There's a bit of traffic between them right now. It's extending the gap, and Enrique at the moment is not getting the rub of the green with it, really. He's now got to let through what I'm going to presume is Daniel Kirby, making his way down the inside. But don't need to worry about that. Gap second and a half. It's tantalising, really, and now Lock is the one who has to slow down slightly through the chicane for a bit more traffic, but then Enrique is going to have to deal with that. It's really toing and froing with every corner almost at the moment, this battle.
Certainly is, and it's at these stages that the nerves really start to ramp up as well, and you're aware at this stage there's only 5 minutes left, you can't make any mistakes. Some people then cause themselves to drive a bit too cautiously, which can sometimes cause its own problems in itself, but Enrique knows that he's got a battle on his hands once he gets to Lock anyway. Lock's not going to give that position up easily, especially not after the contact they had earlier on into turn 1, and at the moment he's banging on Kirby, pushing him offline a little bit, maybe as he tries to get past Mika there, as he does so on the pit straight, nice and comfortably in the end, and that gap's got up now to 3 seconds, so Enrique caught in the traffic a little bit, and that's cost him, and maybe it's going to cost him the chance to attack at all on Lock. Very little time remaining, 5 minutes on the clock.
Yeah. not long now. It will feel like a very long 5 minutes for Locke, I think. It's not a big gap. It's not one that I'd be comfortable with at this point, and I'm sure he's not either. John Ian doesn't have a big gap either, does he? I know he's made that final stop fairly recently. Well, a lot more recently than Hall. But I think he is just managing. Yeah, it's not huge gaps at the front. This has been one of the closer races we've seen for quite some time, actually. In terms of field spread, this has been a pretty close race. I mean, we've seen some very big margins for the winners, whoever they've been in some of the classes in some recent races. But this one's been very, very close. And I have to say, Indianapolis has delivered a decent race. I know that I wouldn't have enjoyed driving in it, but in terms of watching it, it's been an entertaining one so far. It's not over yet. Eugene Mazur ahead of Alain Lefrancois. These two have come together earlier, and they're going to come together again. Alain Lefrancois goes around after contact with the championship leader in GT3 AM, and in the end, Mazur will hold on to that second place.
It didn't look to me as though Alain ever had the overlap there until the last moment. He sticks his nose where it doesn't belong, and it gets chopped off. That's unfortunate for him, but maybe just desserts in the end. You can't really be poking your nose into the vortex of danger and expect to come out without a bloodied nose there. So that's by the by. At this stage, I don't think he's going to have the time to catch back up again now. Now he's got a gaggle of hypercars that look vying to get past him behind him. That's going to slow him up even more.
It's not nice to deal with sometimes. So Mazur, what's the situation with him today? Because at the moment he came into this race with 62 points over the others in the championship.
I think he's still beating his main rivals in the championship, isn't he? So it's Doig in P1 at the moment. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. Who doesn't have a place on the championship at the moment that I can see. But a good result from him for sure. He's leading by 34 seconds. That's a healthy margin, coming in 2 minutes and 2.5 minutes remaining. Becky Ely as well. In the pro category, absolutely dominated proceedings here today. Will be gaining over Zalecki, her main championship rival. But the big battles that we've got going on here really is in the hypercars this evening, as Hall is actually closing in and crawling towards Uyan at the death here, and maybe could be close enough to mount some kind of challenge at the death here. What do you think?
Maybe, I don't know, I've written Hall off from quite far out actually, but maybe that was a bad idea. Castronakis looking for another couple of points there ahead of Gonçalves. He's going to lose some more today. Started the day 31 behind. It's going to slip to at least 45 or so, but will remain in contention. By the way, Eugene Mazur won't wrap up the championship with things as they stand, but will improve his situation. Stephen Miller would be the only one who remains in contention, so the man really in 6th place at the moment would be the only one still in contention at the end of today in GT3 AM. But that's to worry about later, because the battle for the win might be on. This is the penultimate lap of the race, and John Ian is being put under pressure from Brian Hall. I am surprised, I've got to say. Hall has pitted a lot more further in the past than John Ian, who is fairly fresh out the pit lane, to be honest. But he's still being caught, is Ian, and Brian Hall is really chasing him down in that Acura, trying to take that race win away in the final minute it would have to be. And look at the gap now, it dipped below a second. This could be on going into the final lap.
John Uyan looks like he's struggling with his tyres. They're not quite working out for him at the moment, and Brian Hall catching him hand over fist, well within the DRS, and now they've got traffic to contend with as well. Is that a late move there? Oh, that's onto the grass there as well. Almost ended in absolute tears and screams, but they both managed to get through at the moment. He'll get another chance here, will Brian Hall, to mount another attack, but there's not long left remaining. John Uyan just needs to get his elbows out and not make a mistake, but Brian has the pace here.
Yeah, look at the run he's got as well at the final corner. Less than 30 seconds remaining. We're going for one more. The final lap here at Indianapolis. And there's a change on the last lap. Brian Hall makes it through. John Ian slows down dramatically on this last lap. And slows down loads. I wonder if he's under fueled here. Is it all falling apart at the end as Daniel Kirby closes in and is now in third place. If he were to be able to overturn that, he could take the title on this last lap. Brian Hall lets another driver through, by the way, here at the moment, but John Uyen is slowing down by the looks of it.
That was almost a one for the historical ages there, as the lap car outbrake themselves up the inside of Brian Hall there, almost taking out the leader, but he managed to get through in anyway. In fact, it was almost pure luck that he managed to avoid that incident there, but I'm not sure who it was, a yellow and white liveried car there, just going a bit off track there, and John Uyen, Daniel Kirby stuck behind them now, and this is an absolute fantastic late drama here for Brian Hall to take his first win of the season. Highest finish before this was a P2, and he's going to be absolutely delighted with getting this at the death there as well. It certainly looks as though something went wrong for Uyan. He's losing time hand over fist to his teammate Kirby as well, and 4 seconds off the lead now, and yeah, end of the race coming now, and Hall takes the win.
Brian Hall with the win, his best result since back at Long Beach. It's Brian, and there's a big smash across the line, goodness me, but it's Brian Hall who wins, and the champion confirmed already. Daniel Kirby with second place here in Indianapolis will take the title. John Uyen, I'm not even sure, completed the race. Did he get there in time? I'm not entirely sure. Whether he did, he will finish third. Timon Subic couldn't quite get there, but Daniel Kirby will be confirmed as champion by the end of today. The championship lead will reduce for Wayne Hutchison in Hypercar Arm, as Michael Locke will hold on to a win there ahead of Enrique. Becky Ely will extend the championship lead in GT3 as well, in that third of the categories. And where is she? It's just going towards the final couple of corners at the moment. We'll watch her over the line in LMGT3. It's been another great drive from her. 9 points with her advantage at the start of the day. That's going to grow to 19 at the end of today. JC Tommy was in our YouTube chat earlier on, up there in the championship himself, of course, said he was both glad and sad to be missing this race. I guess sad to be missing out on points, but glad to be watching because it was a fantastic end. And there is Daniel Duke, by the way, very happy with his GT3 AM victory, as you would be. But late drama, I'm fairly certain Johnny underfueled and had a lap of fuel to save right at the end, unfortunately.
Yeah, possibility that maybe there was a bit of team orders there as well, because Kirby gets him at the death in the last couple of corners. Was that team orders to give him the championship win? It's a possibility. We'll find out in the interviews when we get to them. But Suvic finishing P4 as well. That's not going to do him any give him any problems in his championship charge. He's fourth in the championship as well. It means that maybe he's got a battle on his hands with Tom Lane for that last top 3 position. But we'll move on towards the results now.
Well, yeah, it would be weird for Uyen to hand that over, by the way, since he was the only other rival in the championship. But anyway, Brian Hall takes the race win ahead of Daniel Kirby and Don Uyen. The teammates on the podium there. Timon Subic and Roger de Bruyn round out the top 5, with Magnus Dahlgren ended up missing out in the Ferrari. Carl Vester finishes 7th. Still no top 5 for him in solo racing, with George Andalidis, Joe Chen and Jules Lalonde rounding out the top 10. Ross Smith was 11th ahead of Michael Locke, AM winner. Then Matthew Overton, who finished 13th. Felipe Enrique and Wayne Hutchison were on the AM podium ahead of Benjamin Porteous-Heath in the Toyota. And it was Becky Ely who won in GT3 ahead of Yuki Takanashi. Daniel Duig put in a great performance there to win in GT3 AM ahead of Jamie Zalecki, who loses 10 points of ground in the GT3 Championship. William Miller, a little bit out of position in Hypercar there in 21st, ahead of Vinicius Gonçalves and Vasilis Katrinakis. Alan Lafrancois and Eugene Mazur round out the top 25. So Mazur did actually slip to third at the end, just helping Stephen Miller out ever so slightly at the end. Who was next? Matt Buse, 26th, ahead of Josh Lepetri. Stephen Miller, I was just talking about. Max Schuldenlap and Craig Pullen to round out the top 30. And then there were issues and other problems for others further back, like Jason Whitehead, who didn't finish. Neither did Peter Meyer, Adam Gray, Sashin Sobers, Tom Lane, or Eric Mounier, who actually got disqualified somehow over the course of that race. But only 30 getting to the flag. Well, a fantastic race. Great dramatic ending, but I think only 30 of the 36 actually make it to the end. Says a little bit, really, and quite a lot about the attrition rate that we had during that race, which was really quite high, really, compared to some of the other races we've had this season.
Yeah, it certainly had, some of those incidents certainly had a bit of effect on the results as well. Dan Kirby obviously would have run away with this one and sealed the championship in some style, were it not for his incident. But big congratulations there to Brian Hall, who really pulled one out of the bag with that last lap overtake. Made it look easy. He had so much straight line speed over Uyad, who maybe got the strategy wrong slightly. It's been a very entertaining race in the end, particularly in that pro hypercar category. What a finale that was.
Yep, absolutely fantastic. And we can get the main protagonist, Brian Hall, into the booth now. Brian, welcome in. Good to have you with us. How was that at the end? A last lap pass for you to take the win there in Hypercar. That must have been very exciting indeed. Did you fully understand sort of the situation that was going on there with Ian? Or what were your presumptions at the time about what was going on?
Hey guys, first, thank you guys for being here. This makes this really enjoyable for the rest of us to be able to come out and hear you guys announce what we're doing out there. Thursday night was the same race with John, but I caught up to him, but I couldn't get around him with traffic. Well, this time I tried a little something different. It gave me a couple extra laps, and I think he didn't take enough fuel at the last one. So he started to run out there at the last. It was then I started to run out the last too, but I was afraid there was going to be one more lap and then I was going to be dead. But God was smiling on me today.
It certainly was. And that's your first win of the season. Your best finish so far is second place, I believe, in Long Beach as well. How do you feel going in the next two races? Have you discovered some pace that you felt was lacking previously, or what's changed?
It's just my day, brother. That's about it. I'm not as quite as fast as Daniel and those guys. So all I can say is just today was my day.
Yeah, it certainly was.
I mean, you sound like you put yourself down, to be honest. It's a good achievement and thoroughly deserved win, I've got to say. Congratulations, Brian. It's been good to see you take that win here tonight, and your best result, even if it wasn't a win, it would have been your best result for a while as well on Saturdays anyway. So congratulations on that. Nice drive here tonight. Thanks very much for coming to chat to us. I'm sure we'll see you out in the last two rounds very soon.
And again, thanks, guys. And I also want to put a quick shout out to my brother's family. They both passed away here just in the last month, Danny and Timmy. Hearts out to them. And say hey to my granddaughter, Whitley, Brittany, and James in North Carolina, and my brother, Lanny, for all his help doing this, and my wife's Patience, and my son's love, Christopher. So it's a family affair when we do things like this. They give us the time to do it. But again, you guys make it very enjoyable. We're so grateful that you're here.
Yeah, no problems at all. Thanks very much for coming to chat to us. And we'll see you next time out.
Amen, brothers.
Thank you very much, Brian Hall. Hypercar winner here tonight. Let's go to Hypercar Am now, and Michael Locke, who also joins us, if he's there. Yes, he is, I believe. Welcome in. Good to have you with us again. And another good drive from you overall. I think at Fuji things didn't quite work out in the end. I mean, I know you had good pace, but it didn't quite work out fully. But on this occasion, it looked from our perspective as if it was a sort of mistake-free race for you on this occasion. Just how was that race overall from your perspective?
Yeah, Fuji, I messed it up pretty bad. But this one was pretty good for the most part. I don't know if you caught it at the end there. Me and Henrique, I think, both went off. I went off, and then he took my spot, and then he went off, and I took it back. So my tires were screaming at the end, so I was happy for it to be over, to be honest.
I think we certainly did miss that one, unfortunately, but thankfully everything worked out the same way as it started, because you both made the same mistake. But you did also have a bit of a coming together down into turn one. It got very elbows out, a bit aggressive there. Talk us through that situation and how panicked you were with that one.
With Henrique?
Yeah.
In the middle? Yeah, that was tough. He was blocking pretty hard, so he was braking real early, so I had to kind of navigate around that, and eventually I knew I just needed to pit and get the undercut because I felt like I was just out of time. So I just decided to pit a little early.
Well, it worked out for you great in the end. It was a great win. Congratulations on that one. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go this evening?
Shout out to mom and dad. That's it.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Congratulations on the win, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
All right, thanks guys. Have a good one.
Thanks very much, Michael Look there, winner of Hypercar Am here this evening, and we.
We seem to have lost Ewan for a second there, but I'll take over. A bit of musical chairs going on, but that's.
Yes, we're bringing in Becky Ely now, or we're trying to, because James moved me instead of anyway. Never mind. No one needs to know, but they do now. Anyway, Becky, welcome in. Good to have you with us into the chaos that has happened here. Congratulations on another win here this evening. I mean, it all goes down and back to that qualifying lap, really, doesn't it? Where you went out of the blocks very, very quickly, and you were quite a lot faster than everybody else. I mean, were you surprised by the gaps in qualifying and the gap that you had on everyone else?
First off, hello. Thank you again for having me, and thank you. I say this every time, and I'm going to say it again. This is the most I've ever practiced for a race, and I think that's kind of showing. Indy suited the NSX absolutely down to a T. The NSX loves the straights. It loves the slow corners. It doesn't like high-speed corners, but the high-speed corners here were very shallow, very gentle curves. So the NSX was just an absolute beast here, and I had a very nice setup as well, with a lot of help from Yuki Takanashi, who again you might remember from me almost putting me in a wall in Road America, but he's been helping me a lot, and yeah, like beautiful setups now. Also, I would like to thank George Angelidis, because I started off using his setups and modifying them. And for this track, I used a trick that I learned from his setups to run a really low ride height. So the car was scraping all over the place, but it was absolutely fine doing that thanks to a little trick I learned from George.
It's great to see the community helping each other out so much with everything there. But this race, you've gained points in the championship over your main rival, Jamie, and that's the 4th win in a row, 2nd pole in a row as well. You've got to be thinking that you've got one hand on that title now, going into Road Atlanta and Bahrain. How confident are you of taking this title home?
I think obviously anything can happen. Something happened to Jamie today. He managed to pull it back to 3rd place, which was amazing. So that was good for him. It's really weird being your main title contender, being your teammate. So we sometimes share advice and we share setups and stuff. Like if one of us had a bad setup, the other one would give them their setup. So we're probably both going to be up there for all the races. So it could end up decided by incidents. I hope it's not, but it could be. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you do never know what's going to happen, and we're very much looking to finding out. Of course, I'm sure you are as well. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, Becky, before we let you go?
I would also like to give a shout out to JP, James Parfit, because the whole organisation of JPB, yourselves as well, you and Stephen, it's great, and I love watching it back. And I love the input from you guys. I love the weird conversations. I'm looking forward to hearing what happened just before I came into the booth. It's all great, and really appreciate what you guys do for us, making it a professional outfit.
I'd like to point out I didn't actually do anything in this one apart from operate the cameras. It was all Steve and Ewan. So I just pressed buttons in the background, Becky, for this one.
Apart from holding the whole screen together, the whole thing that they can see.
Yes, this is also true. I'm going to take full credit for today's broadcast, then. Thank you very much to everybody for coming along.
Well, they will have only seen your work if they weren't listening. So anyway, but yes,
Hopefully
thanks
they were listening. Hopefully.
Yeah, well, I hope so. No, thanks very much for the kind words. It's great to be here. We very much enjoy doing this every well, not every week, but every round that we're here for. It's absolutely fantastic. And congratulations on being another part of that, another win, Becky. Congratulations, and we look forward to seeing you at Road Atlanta.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Thanks so much, Becky Ely there, the GT3 winner from, where are we? Indianapolis. Sorry, I was going to say Road Atlanta. Indianapolis, I am sure. But yes, the final of the 60-minute races is now complete. We still have a long way to go in this season, though. Still 3 hours of racing remain, starting off with an hour and 40 at Road Atlanta and an hour and 20 at Bahrain. Still plenty to come here in the Virtual World Sports Car Championship for 2023. Daniel Kirby is a Hypercar champion after that pass of John Huyen at the end, and unfortunately Tom Lane's DNF has given him the title with still 2 rounds to go. But there are 3 titles still up for grabs here, including a very interesting teams one in the Hypercar AM standings as well, so that gives us even more than 3 in the coming weeks. Stephen, it's been great to be here for this one. Indianapolis, very entertaining, and possibly the sort of closest we've had to a last lap pass. I think this does class as a last lap pass here tonight that we've had this season. Really, it's been a very, very exciting end to this race.
Yep, thoroughly entertaining, and as always, pleasure to work with you and James, as always, and looking forward to more racing and seeing how this one turns out. Congratulations to Dan Kirby once more for winning the championship, and looking forward to seeing them out on track in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, we've got about 4 weeks remaining until the next round of our championship, but for now it's time for us to bid our farewells. Make sure you subscribe to JPB for all the other racing that's going on over the course of the weekend and the coming weeks as well between now and then, including some historic rounds as well, of course, that we have of this championship. You don't have to wait quite a month for the next instalment of this championship. We've got historic racing coming up very soon. So make sure you subscribe to JPB so you don't miss out on any of that. For now, though, we're going to be bidding our farewells. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Stephen Carabellis, and James Parfitt has been behind the cameras here this evening. And until we see you for the 100 minutes of Road Atlanta in a few weeks' time, it's goodbye for now.